Hello, everybody, and Merry Christmas. It's Stephen and Walter here for another episode of So Chatty. And this is episode 40, and it's December the 24th, so it's Christmas Eve. We're about to be Christmas Eve. And we kind of thought what we would discuss, although it might be a little late now for your gift buying when you see this, but we thought we'd talk about 12 quilting and sewing stocking stuffers, little items that we use all the time that I think that any quilter or sewer might appreciate finding in their sock at Christmas. So although it's kind of late maybe this time of the year, unless you're running out real quick after you see this for that last minute gift idea, heaven help you to find a store that has them. This would be good for maybe next year to consider, or, other occasions when you might want to give a quilter or a sewist something special. So what we're going to do is we have 12 items. We both picked 6. These are items that we use on a regular basis that we really like. And I have found these items on Amazon. And I'm going to put in the show notes the links to these on Amazon. But I'm also going to show them actually as they appear on Amazon as we're discussing each one of these items and why we like it. And what we do with it. But just a word of caution, I am showing you the Canadian Amazon site. So if you're American, your price is going to be different, probably cheaper. And if you do a little bit of scouting around on Amazon, you might find it for a slightly different price as well. And I went to Amazon because they had pictures. But a lot of these items we're going to talk about, you can probably find in your local quilting or sewing store and possibly other favorite online stores as well. So we're going to get right on with this. Oh, before I get too far in, let me come back here. Just advance notice, January the 5th, not that far away, is Craft and Chat, 1 p.m. I've put the Zoom link in the show notes below, but it will appear in all my videos that happen after this one up until the day of that. But all are welcome and hope you can join us. And of course, the regulars out there, you'll be getting your special invitation because I have your email address for that. And if you'd like to be on the mailing list, just send me your email address as well, and I'll put you on the Craft and Chat mailing list. So let's move right into this. First item is mine, and this is the Clover Straight Tailor's All. Use it all the time. Yeah. This, I really love this. This is also known as a stiletto, but some people get that mixed up with a pair of shoes. So I find this very, very handy. Now, I didn't immediately go out and buy one when I first got into quilting because I didn't know what the heck they were. But I saw somebody using it in a class, and it's really great when you're trying to get hold something down underneath the foot of your sewing machine, and you don't really want to put your fingers near that because you don't want to sew through your fingers. This is a really great device. It's got a very sharp point on the end, so it'll work for other things too. And I guess that's why they call it an awl, because an awl is something for punching holes. So you can use this to punch, let's say you were doing a bag or something and you had some, you had to put in snaps or something like that and you needed a bit of a hole to get started. This would help, or through leather or that kind of thing. So I find them very handy and they're not that expensive. Now this one actually says if you have Prime, it's $7.77. But they do show other prices on there as well, which I don't know why there are different ones, because they're all basically one size fits all. They're not different sizes. So anyways,
I use it all the time.
You
I
use
it to help fabric go through, sometimes through my needle. I sometimes use it to push holes through fabric for if I put a small snap through. I use this thing all the time. However, you do have to be careful with it because it has a very sharp point. Ask me how I know.
Ask how you know. Yeah, well, I've done that too. I've kind of poked myself.
I've had it slip and poke right through my nail.
Yeah. Ooh. So yeah,
I know it sounds awful, but actually it wasn't. It hurt for a minute.
Do handle with caution. And the other thing you might want to do is, I don't know if you can see it in the picture, but actually, if I roll over it and zoom in. right there. Oops. They show you right on here that there is a little cap. Put that up here. There is a little cap that it comes with to put over the pointy end, because you can see how pointy that end is. Of course, that's the first thing you'll lose anyways. But what I recommend is if you keep your tools in an upright position, like in a cup or something like that, put the sharp pointy end down, because inadvertently you'll stick your hand in your cup looking for something else and you'll come out with this thing stuck through your hand. That's how sharp it is.
Yeah, it is really, really sharp, so you have to be careful with it. And yeah, I lost the plastic cap immediately too.
Yeah, I've lost that. So yeah, that's
and actually that is the brand that I have. So
yeah,
you
that's
can get
Clover.
different brands too.
There's different styles. Yeah, if you go on Amazon and you put in stiletto for quilting, that's what I had up here on my screen. You'll find other ones.
I know some people will sometimes use the end of their seam ripper or something else to guide it through. If you use your seam ripper to guide it through underneath the machine bit, if you use your seam ripper, you have the chance that it might snag your fabric and rip through it.
Yeah, and also the seam ripper has a thinner end to it than this does, so it'll bend on you. If you need to put, like when I use it for binding a lot, when I'm mitering my corners, and so I've got a lot of layers of fabric that I have to hold down to get underneath my foot, and I use the pointy end of this to hold it down, and it works like a charm. If I was tried to, and I have tried it with a seam ripper before, I had one of those, and the seam ripper would just bend.
Yeah,
it's thinner.
The needle that's on this one is very sturdy.
Yeah,
it won't bend very easily.
So I think I paid more than that for it, because I think I bought mine actually at a quilting store, and I think I paid something like $14 for it. Whereas on Amazon, if you've got Prime and you don't have to pay for the shipping, then it's a good place to go. But go wherever you want to go to get it. I'm just using those, as I said, to show you the actual pictures. Okay, here's an item off of Walter's list. It's Steemosine Lite.
Yeah, actually, there's two types of Steemosine. There's a light version and a non-light version. They both work, but the light works a little better. I'm not saying it's a little better. It's just that it's two-sided sticky type tape, and it will hold a seam down that you're trying to sew, or hold a zipper in. And what happens is you put one side of it down on a piece of your fabric, and you iron over top of it, right? And the one side sticks to your fabric. The raw edge sticks to your fabric. There's a paper backing that you iron over. And then after you iron over, you can peel off the paper back. It leaves the sticky side. And then you can press the other side of your seam down on top of it and iron over it again, and it'll stick two pieces of cloth together. And it's supposed to do it permanently. So some people I use it to help me do some seams sometimes, or hems, and stick it down prior to doing a final stitch. Theoretically, you can just leave it in there, but I like having the final stitch in there as well. And it holds it down nice and tight, and you can get a nice straight, even edge on it.
Yeah, and you already said for holding down zippers, but especially when you're making bags too, it works really well when you're lining up your zipper in a bag, holding that down. And it is a 1/4 inch. Now, Steemosine isn't anything new. I have a big box of Steemosine, but that's much wider. You could cut off a 1/4 inch strip for what you needed in a pinch, but Steemosine is sticky. So when you try to cut a 1/4 inch of it, and ask me how I know, because I've tried, it will sometimes stick to your rotary cutter or your scissors as well, and then it gets some of the stuff peeled off it and whatnot. Whereas this stuff's already there on a roll for you. You roll out how much you need. This particular package says there's 40 yards of it, so that's quite a lot. And it's something that's not that expensive. Amazon Canadian is quoting this as $14.15 for a package. So, and for those of you that are American, it says it's made in the United States. So.
Yeah, and there is a regular version of it, not the light version. The only difference is when you're peeling the paper backing from the back, the light version comes off much easier than the one that isn't light. So if the one that isn't light, it tends to adhere more, and it's more difficult to get the backing off. It still works, but it's a little bit more of a nuisance to work with.
And they're showing on a picture of the packages, create perfect points. So if you are having trouble with your half square triangles, if you're making a star like what they're showing there or whatever, sometimes you're it's hard to keep your seams even across when you're sewing it so that you don't lose your point. Well, you can use this to hold it down as well. So there's a lot of uses for this stuff. I use it too, so I like it. All right, so that was your number one. Number two, these aren't in any particular order, by the way.
No.
We're just alternating between each other. Okay, this is something I cannot live without. These come in a variety of different types, just little snips. This is the type I prefer. There are snips you can get that are a little bit wider in the points, but I like the fine point because I can get right in there and cut off my thread. In fact, I like it so much that mine are on a lanyard and I wear them all the time. When I start to sew, I throw them on around my neck. I don't have to go looking for them. They're right there all the time, and I'm in the habit of, as soon as I've snipped anything with them, I put them back onto the end of the lanyard. Now, these particular ones we're showing here do not have a lanyard with them, but lanyards are very easy to get. In fact, I found you could almost make your own too, just with a piece of gross grain ribbon and about an inch of little plastic tubing, clear plastic tubing, and then just put that on the end of the ribbon kind of a thing, and slips it in. And it's always there. In fact, I have them on so often that I oftentimes have started to go out somewhere, like to a store, and I'm still wearing my scissors. And that they're a fashion accessory as well. The ones I have are made by Janome. That's because I bought them at my local quilt store that deals with Janome, but which probably cost me, about what these did. They're not really cheap, but they're good quality scissors. You can buy. Well, didn't you buy some snips at the dollar store?
Yeah, I just bought some cheap snips at the dollar store. I don't use ones that I hang around my neck. I like searching for them. I don't know. I don't find that I really. I usually have enough scissors around that I can cut stuff with.
Well, whatever. Well, I like them.
It's one of those things that if you get used to it, you really like it. You like it. I've just never gotten used to it. I have a pair, but I just have never gotten used to wearing them. So
they're just very handy to have, and you can get right in there. If you've got something on your sewing machine where you got to cut a thread and it's still underneath the foot or whatever, well, try and get your big shears in there for that. No, these work better for that kind of purpose. So number two for you is a chalk. Oops.
Uh-oh.
What did I just do?
You just changed it.
Yeah, I think, no, there it is. Okay, no, that's not it.
It said there, had the right name on it.
I think I hit the X, but
Yeah.
Just give me a second. I can do this. Everybody look into Walter's eyes while I do this, because it's right here. I've got the link. Not a problem. I just have to find the link. There it is. And best laid plans of mice and men. Okay, here we go. And switch us back here. There we are. This is what we're talking about. The Bohin? I'm never sure how you say it. Bohin? Bohin?
Chalk pencil. I have a couple of these, and this one says it's yellow. But anyway, you can get it in yellow, white, pink. Actually,
no, read. Right, why don't you read? Ink color, white.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what they're colored yellow. I don't know what they mean by that, because I don't see any yellow in that picture. But anyways, that doesn't matter.
Yeah, the standard ones are usually white, but you can get, they take a chalk lead, and you can get the leads in white and in pink and in yellow and in sort of a pencil color. And I really like using them for marking on my clothes and stuff, because the chalk does come out. Especially when I'm trying to figure out where to put my buttons and where to put my buttonholes on my shirts, and other markings that I have to do on a shirt or on a piece of clothing for positioning items. I use this all the time. I usually use the white or the pink chalk in them. I like them. The only problem is they have a very fine tip, and if you press really hard, they tend to break. but out of anything else I've used for marking, I like them the best.
I use them too in quilting, and I usually use them when I'm on dark fabric. Like if I have to draw the line making half square triangles or something like that, I'll often use that if it's dark material, because it shows up really well, and it's just chalk, so it'll wash out. You can rub it off actually if you need to. With it too. But yeah, like Walter said, the leads that you put in them, or whatever they would call that, the refills, are very, very thin. And so you don't want to press too hard because it will break.
There is a pattern that you can get that takes a thicker chalk, but I find it breaks just as easily.
Yeah, I found that too. I was trying that. And but yeah, so this is a good marking device. You can a device, and you can get, as you can see, there's a picture there, a little package of refills. Now on this one that I'm showing here, I'm not sure if that includes. I think
Usually the bone fine chalk pencil usually comes with a set of replacement white refills. That's
Yeah, I
usually
think
what it comes with. Now, the one comment I have to make about this is that the refills are kind of expensive.
yeah, and you can get them though on There's Much Spend. Now this one's a 4-piece set, so I guess you get 2 pens and 2 refills for $49.99.
Which is not really that much of a
No,
saving.
so basically this one does come with a set of refills, and I think there's a 5 in the package. I think
it's 6.
Oh, is it 6? Okay, well,
But yeah, for 6 of those refills, it can cost you about $10.
yeah, but mind
So
you, I haven't gone through that many of them.
no, I don't. One refill will last you quite a while, depending how much sewing that you
Yeah.
do. But I do like them, even though they're a little on the pricey side to use.
Okay, so next item on the list.
Not that one. That's the Bic.
Well, that might be my next item. That's my next item.
Okay, fine.
That's my item.
That one.
Mine is, speaking of marking tools, this is one. Now, there's all kinds of mechanical pencils out there that you can get, but this one's by Bic, and you got 2 in a package, and you can see it's like they're marking it at $6.19. I think I bought my package at the dollar store. They weren't $1. I think they might have been $2.50 or something for 2. But I use these to mark all the time. On anything on my fabric that is not going to be seen, I use this, if especially on lighter fabrics, to mark them. Now, when I say marking, I'm not talking about marking a whole quilt in preparation for quilting it. I'm talking about marking pieces where I have to have a line, a sew line. But these are great. But you can spend, because you have your mechanical pencils.
I have a mechanical pencil I use, and actually, it's not that much different in price than other than there's a little bit more of a cash outlay, but the leads are actually very reusable on everything. You can sharpen it. It's a, what do you call it? A draftsman's pencil. And but it's just a type of pencil. I mean, these are you can use one of these, or you can use what I use, or whatever. But I'll use it too on areas that you can't see. And when I'm marking something that's a lighter color.
Yeah. But I mean, personally, I don't think you need to spend a lot on a mechanical pencil. As I said, I got mine at the dollar store. Same brand, Bic, same package.
Yeah.
And it didn't cost me $6.19 for 2 of them. It cost me like $2.50, I think, or something like that.
I only use the mechanical pencil because I happen to like it. So, but
it's too lazy to sharpen it. Yeah.
no, I sharpen it.
Yeah. Okay. You can stick that. Here's your item, and it's now this you'll need to explain to me because I don't know what a garment. Oops, I forgot to turn off my email. Garment pattern notcher is.
Okay, so when you're doing clothing patterns, there's usually a notch for showing you which side of your armhole is, or whatever. For when you're setting in sleeves, there's a way, there's a front and a back for a sleeve. So the pattern will put like one notch for, I think, the back, one notch for the back of the sleeve, and 2 notches for the front of the sleeve, I believe. And that's a little indent. And
So that's what they're showing
yeah,
there.
and it's easy. Like, you can take those notches out with a pair of scissors, but I find it's much easier to do it with this. It's a nice little punch that punches it through the material to when you got to take your notches out of your pattern.
So that's what these little torture devices
Yeah,
for.
it's great.
I have no idea.
I saw it one place and I thought, gee, that might be kind of
Hmm.
cool to use. And yeah, it'll go a quarter of an inch deep, but you can even, if you don't want to go full quarter, you can push it out a little bit, and it doesn't give you as deep a cut.
I'm just trying to think if there's any use for it in quilt making, and I can't think of any.
But yeah, there's various patterns in sewing. You often have a notch to indicate where you need to do different things, like put a dart in or something, or put or something, or match two pieces together or something like that. And I love using this thing because it's much easier than using scissors.
Okay, who would have thought? So my next item is Wonder Clips. Now, that's what Wonder Clips look like, and they are great. And I have used those pretty much since I started quilting. They take the place of pins most of the time. They're very strong. They have markings on the back of them, so you know if you've gone in an eighth of an inch, a quarter of an inch, or half an inch, which is sometimes is handy. That you might need that. They're very strong. You can get, now these are Clover Wonder Clips. They're not cheap. Now this is a 50-piece set for $34.58. I just bought from monfil.ca a 100 package for $60. They basically work out on average to $1 a clip, and you can usually you can go buy them at Michael's in a package of 10 for $12. If you have the coupon off, well, it's a little cheaper, but 10 are not going to be enough. You can't have too many. I have several hundred of them, and I use them a lot. They've got a really strong grip. They're good quality. They are an expensive, I'm gonna have to turn that off. They are an expensive outlay in a way, but really, I don't like pinning. I do pin at times, but these usually, like I said, 90% of the time I can use a Wonder Clip where I would use a pin. So I think they're worth the money. Now, you can get knockoffs, and I have bought some knockoffs on here on Amazon, where you can get like 100 of them in different colors for $20 or something like that. And they work. They do work as well. But I do still like the original Wonder Clips the best. I don't know. Maybe I'm a brand snob kind of a thing. So I collect them. Do you use them?
I use them. I use them interchangeably with pins. Sometimes I use pins. Sometimes I use Wonder Clips. Depends on the situation that I'm in. A lot of times, if I'm sewing with something that's really thick, several layers or something like that, then I often will use the clips instead of the pins, because it'll be hard to pin the material when you're going through something thick. Sometimes I use it. I don't use. I use pins instead, because it depends on how secure I need. Like the Wonder Clips hold it fairly secure, but if it's just 2 layers of fabric, I find sometimes pins work a little better for me.
Well, I use these on 2 layers of fabric when I've got, like, if I'm putting a border on a quilt, I will pin them. I will use these instead of pins. It keeps everything nice and straight, and they're really easy to take off as you're sewing. And you will not sew over these, because they will not fit under your foot. Yeah. So if you leave in a pin and you forgot to take it out, you have you could have a major problem on your hands if you hit that pin.
Yeah, like what I like sometimes too is, if you're sewing away, you can actually sort of, depending on how far you have them spaced apart, you can sort of, like, as you're sewing away, move one a little bit further down your sewing to get the fabric together or something.
I do that all the time too. I slide them down further.
But it really is the difference between pins and those, whatever application you're using them for, is really personal preference as to how you end up using them. But they're a great addition to pins.
And if you're bag making, and if you look in the diagram or in the picture of the packaging, you can see they're going around a border or a piece of binding that's got a curve to it. This makes it really easy.
Yeah.
I use them in bag making when I make
Well,
bags.
see, bags, a lot of times you've got many layers of
Yeah.
fabric, and it's really difficult to put a pin through it. So the clips are much easier.
And I use these when I'm doing binding on a quilt. I actually have binding clips that are meant for holding your binding. And I used to use those, and they were okay, but they have these sharp metal edges on them, and sometimes I would cut into my binding fabric with it. Whereas these ones are all nicely rounded, they're plastic, they're reinforced with a metal spring kind of a thing in them to keep them securely closed. But I use these on my binding all the time, and they hold really well. So I think they're worth the money.
Yeah, they're a good investment. I like them. I've got 50, depending on what's that, I've got about 100 of them that I have. I started with a 50 bucks,
Only
but
100?
actually, I don't really need more than 100. So
You can never have too many Wonder Clips. But anyway, so that takes us to your number 4, which are pattern weights.
yeah, I just started using these. I saw them on the Great British Sewing Bee, where people were using pattern weights. Sometimes people use just metal washers or anything that's heavy to weigh down your pattern when you're cutting it, instead of pinning everything together. It's a little bit different way of cutting your pattern out when you're cutting fabric out for clothing, and plus you can put them in spots where if you're pinning, sometimes it's hard to pin through the layers or whatever. So with this, you can just stick it on top of your pattern. It holds your pattern in place while you're doing the cutting for clothing, and I find they're really good. I do have some of these Dritz pattern weights. Plus, I made a few myself by putting wrapping heavy weighted iron washers in material, just to keep the, what do you call it, the if there's any rough edges on the washers, keep them smoothed out.
And it looks like they fill these ones with steel balls. That's what it says.
Yeah,
so you could get some ball bearings, I suppose.
They're not very big, but they are kind of nice to have, and you can use anything that you have that is a little heavy to weigh down your pattern. But I really do like using them.
The only disadvantage of these, because when you were looking for them, is this only has 4.
Yeah.
And $18.19 on Amazon, that seems a little pricey for what they are.
Yeah.
But I suppose
some people get really heavy washers, like at a hardware store. If you go to a hardware store and buy really heavy washers or something like that, or anything small that's heavy, little types of paperweights or something, that you can probably buy them in the dollar store or something like that. I just so happened to have ordered a few of these from another online store, not Amazon. They were a little cheaper. But they work fine too. So the Dritz ones work fine. I'm sure you can find something else that's a little cheaper that work really well.
Well, and you can make your own.
Yeah.
As you say, like if you want to spend the time doing that, I'm sure you could make them.
It didn't take me very long at all to make them, so.
But another thing is, so I got thinking when you got these, that what they might be good for too is holding down your ruler, but they're not heavy enough.
No.
So, what I do is I have a little hand weight that I put on the top end of my long ruler when I'm cutting, and it just keeps, even though I'm holding it down with my hand and everything, it just, when you get up to that point where you can't reach quite as well, you're not standing right over top of it. If you have a little weight on the end of your ruler, it helps you to keep your ruler from slipping on there. And I thought these might work for that, but they're not heavy enough for that. So they really are only for lightweight materials.
It's great for holding the corners down in your pattern and stuff like that. Once if you have a piece that curls up a little bit or something, it's great for doing that. So
okay, so my next thing, and I have talked about this one at one point in time on the Idiot Quilter because I absolutely love it, And this is my electric seam ripper. Now, see that price? Don't pay that price. Look for a hair trimmer, because there are hair trimmers that look exactly like that. And in fact, that's all that is.
It may not be a pink color. It may be just a silver color.
Yeah. They've been selling those for years. You can pick up this same thing. It looks exactly like this. Is not in pink, it's in black. And you can get them on Amazon for like $14. But this is the original. Well, it's really not an original. Someone got the idea that maybe they want to take out ripping their seam faster than using a regular seam ripper, and looked around in their house and found a little hair shaver, and it works like a charm. But what I love about this, and definitely do not pay that kind of money for it. Look around.
In fact, the funny thing is when Steve purchased one, it was a pink one similar to this. And he showed it to me, and I said, I've got one of these at home. I purchased something similar for my mother when she was in the nursing home to shave unsightly hair from her areas of her face and stuff like that. And it was exactly the same, except it was silver in color, and it looked exactly the same and everything else. Same. It took an AA battery, and it had the same switch in the same spot and everything. And I think it was the WAHL brand or something, which is a common shaver brand. And I think I bought it at Walmart for $10 or $15 at the time.
And now I'll tell you another one where you can get it for even less money, and it's exactly the same thing, and it works, because I bought one to try. The dollar store had one for $4. And it looks exactly like this, except it was black. Takes one AA battery. That's what they take. So I bought it to compare it, and I did do an Idiot Quilter showing the comparison between the two. And guess what? They both work exactly the same, equally as well. There is no difference. So that's why I say, check out your dollar store first. Look in the hair supply part or whatever, where they keep the bathroom stuff. And you might be able to pick yourself up one for, $4 or less.
And they're nice if you've got a huge seam to rip out. They're great if you got a big snag at the back with embroidery or something.
Yeah, if you've got a bird's nest on the back of your embroidery and you need to shave it down, these work really well for that too. It's great. It's one of the best things I ever bought. And in fact, just on Walter's story, one day I was back in the quilting store, and I bought mine original one there, and I think I bought it for about $20 or $24 at the time, which was still way too much money for it, but I didn't know the difference. And the owner of the store one day said she was trying to rip something out in the class, and I said, well, here's my electric seam ripper, use that. She says, I don't like those. I sent them all back. I said, well, I bought it here. And she says, no, I sent them all back. She says, I couldn't get that thing to work. What do you mean? So I picked it up and showed her how to use it. It's not a difficult concept to use it, and it just cut right through it. And I noticed that she has more of them in the store again.
And it doesn't snag your fabric.
No, it won't cut your fabric, because the teeth on the blade are so close together that fabric can't really get in there, but your thread will. So you just open up, but take a couple of stitches out of your seam. And what I do is I take one half of the fabric and I just pin it down to my wool mat or whatever, just one pin, just to anchor it. And then I grab the part that has the seams, a couple of stitches taken out of it, and you just go zip right through it. And in no time, you don't have to worry about anything. So if you don't like seam ripping, you might like this.
Or if you have a piece that you really need take a lot of stitches.
Yeah, this is going to work. It'll do it in seconds. And on top of that, you can also manscape with it. Okay, we're moving on. So, what are these things?
Okay, I saw somebody using them in my class, and they're just they call them a heat-resistant ruler. You can use that. Each of the markings is 1 centimeter, which is about 3/8 of an inch. Because these are usually from Asian locations, so everything's in metric on them. But you can measure out your how wide they are by the markings on it. Compare it to what your ruler is, and what you can do is when you hem something like a bottom of a shirt or something like that, and you want, let's say, a 3/8 of an inch or a 5/8 inch, 5/8 of an inch hem, you can use this as a guide to make sure you're getting the right width of hem. And you can iron right over it with your iron, because they're made out of a type of plastic that's heat resistant, and they really work well.
Now they're showing this for corners too.
Yeah.
For making corners and that. So
and there's some of them have a little rounded edge if you need to go over through a rounded area and on a neckline or something like that, which helps.
So could you use these for quilting? You probably could for when you're doing your binding or something like that, although we kind of do the binding a little bit different than the way they're showing a corner on here.
Yeah, because if you, a lot of times when you're doing sewing for shirts and things like that, is that you do a hem or something like that, or a seam of some sort. There's lots of times where you have to fold over 3/8 of an inch or 5/8 of an inch, and this helps you keep things fairly even.
So they list up there, I just saw 4 pieces stainless steel hemming clips for sewing patchwork quilting. That must be these things they're showing here.
Yeah, I don't know about
but
those.
I have no idea what they're talking about. Why would you be hemming?
I don't use those. I'm
Quilting.
just using the rulers.
Yeah, the yellow ones.
Yeah, I mean, the one that I bought didn't have those metal ones that come with it. I bought one 2-piece that just had the 2 pieces of ruler that you have showing there. That one shows like it's holding a clip there.
Yeah, that's more like a clip for, I guess it's with the, you match it up with the lines on it for,
I guess.
But I don't understand why they're saying for quilting patchwork. That doesn't make any sense.
You know what they're doing there is the rulers don't have inch markings on it, whereas these metal things have the inch markings on it.
Yeah, but
I don't know why.
Why would you do, like you're saying, sewing patchwork quilting?
I don't know.
That doesn't make any sense.
I don't know. I use the rulers for just for hemming to keep my seam straight.
I'm just reading that they're saying there.
These are usually Chinese.
Yeah, so I think they're just making it sound like it's more versatile than.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people might complain that the markings aren't in inches. They're in centimeters. So you just have to get your ruler out and show where the markings are. 1 centimeter is 3/8 of an inch, so which is common that you use in sewing. And then the next little level up, which is a little cross in the middle, is 5/8 of an inch. So you just have to use some common sense when you're using it. That's all. But I'm no stranger to metric, and you can, if you just get a ruler out, measure, and get the idea of where your markings are, it's great. I think Dritz also makes a metal one.
Yeah, I have it.
Get. Yeah.
Or actually, I gave it to you, didn't I?
Yeah, you gave it to me, but I can't find it.
Which is another reason why you should have a lanyard. Maybe you should put all your things on a big rope and wear them around your neck.
Yeah. Dritz uses, Korea has a metal one that you can get, and I think their markings are in inches.
Yeah. The only problem with the metal one, though, is it really retains the heat when you're pressing on it, and then it's hot to handle. Whereas these, they don't get quite as hot.
No, they don't get hot. They don't get hot at all. And they're very thin and flexible. They're rigid, but they're flexible.
Yeah. Not like you.
Yeah.
And this is my last item in my list, and it's the Violet Craft seam roller tool. Now, these have been around for years, and I've always poo-pooed them because when you need to press down a seam and you don't want to use your iron for it, or finger pressing, as they call it, or you're opening up your seams and you're going to press them open. And I thought, well, why would you want to use this? Because the best way to use is, your iron and steam the shit out of it. No, actually, this really does work. I use it quite a bit, especially if I'm doing a lot of patchwork where I don't want to be getting up and down to press my seams all the time. I mean, it will not take the place of a final pressing with an iron. But when you're working on something and you're maybe doing chain piecing or you need to put pieces together, this will work for that. And all it is just the pressure of your hand. So finger pressing, everybody knows what I mean by finger pressing. You just run your nail along the edge of a seam and that sort of holds it. This is the same way, except it's a lot more pressure and easier on your nails, especially if you don't have long nails on it.
Actually, I mean to get one of those. I haven't got one of those.
Well, you should get one of those. Well, there you go. They're $22.53.
Yeah.
Actually, you can get them for cheaper than that. I've seen them around in other places. So check out the prices. Just because you're buying it on Amazon doesn't always mean you're getting the best
you can
price.
probably get a paint roller for that too.
Yeah, but it's
Seam,
paint
seam
rollers.
roller. Seam.
Yeah,
you call
but they're
the
plastic.
wallpapers. Yeah, they're plastic.
Yeah, and they probably would work too. But there is something about the wood.
Yeah, I think the wood will, if you're using an iron or whatever, will it helps with the heat or what.
Yeah, well, it's also good if you've got a really stubborn seam you want to lay flat and you've been steaming it and you're pressing it and it's still coming up. Steam it, then use this immediately on top of it, and it'll help
It's sort
to
of
keep
like
it
a
down.
clapper.
Yeah. In a sense that it's a round clapper, a rolly clapper kind of a thing. But it does. I was really impressed with this, and they've been around for years, and it works like a charm. Okay, so what's your last thing? It is ta-da, a button gauge and point turner.
Well, it's good for your points when you're pushing your points out.
What if you're trying to make a point?
I sometimes use that interchangeably with a crochet hook. But the other thing I use that for is it's good hump jumper.
Hump jumper?
Like if you're going through a thick seam or starting on the end of a thick seam, it's good to stick it underneath the back of your foot for your sewing machine, and it keeps it raised up for you to go over the thick part.
Okay.
The other thing I use it for is the end pieces show like a button area where when I sew my buttons on, it helps me create a shank on the button. I shove it underneath, and
what's a shank?
It's a space between where your button sews into your shirt, and it gives you a little bit longer piece of thread so that your button doesn't actually sew right against the fabric. And then what happens there is that it's easier to button up your buttons when you've got that little space.
So that's what these little slot parts are for.
Yeah, and one's for a bigger, more regular shirt button, which is about an 18 size button. And the one on the other end, by the point, is for a smaller button, like a 14 size button.
And so the turning part then is when you have a corner and you have to push it out.
Right.
Like some people use a chopstick or a skewer for that, but you can poke through your fabric when you're using something like that. Now this does have a fairly pointy end. I have a corner poker, whatever you want to call it. But it's totally different from this.
I think it looks really, really pointy, but it's not that bad. It actually does a pretty good job of pushing your corners out. And plus, like I say, I sometimes use a crochet hook or something else that has sort of a dull point to it to push it out. But I have used this one quite a bit. So it's sort of like a multi-tool. Does quite a few little things.
Now you can get various different ones. This is a combination tool with the button gauge and the point turner. You can get point turners though in wood. You can get them in metal. All kinds. There's all kinds of different choices with those. And anytime you see Dritz as a product name or Clover, you're going to pay more. Those are brand names. So on certain things like these, you don't necessarily need a brand name if you don't want to spend that much money for it. Again, check in your dollar store. I don't know. I've never really looked for one in the dollar store.
There's different other different tools that do things that are very similar to what this one does. I just happen to have picked this one up, and I find that I do use it a lot. I find it has a lot of functions to it that are handy to have. Yeah.
So I think that takes us to the end of our list. So that was $6.
And I don't think I paid what that price is on. I think I paid about half that on where I purchased. I think either I purchased it on a different website or in a store somewhere. I think I paid about half what it's listed here.
Well, that's what I mean. Look around. because you can find. I'm just using the Amazon as a basis for pictures. That
Yeah, well, probably the problem with sometimes buying it from Amazon is that they lump in a bit of a shipping charge in with that.
Well, yeah. But anyway, so those are 12 stocking stuffers that, although it's a little late for this year, maybe for next year or for some other occasion, if you're looking for a little item to get for that person that sews or quilts, those are some suggestions. And these are things that we use all the time. They are not ones that go in the, okay, I bought that, what was I thinking at the time drawer? And, never use them again. These are things we use on a regular basis, almost daily, when we're sewing. Okay, so that takes us to the end of this Sew Chatty, and it is Christmas Eve, as we said. So hope Santa is good to you. Hope everybody's being safe. I know it's a very difficult time of the year right now with everything that's going on, and I'm sure many people, we weren't planning to celebrate Christmas this year like we did last year. But maybe next year things will truly be a lot better. So I hope you have a safe and happy holiday. Hope Santa's good to you, stuffs your socks with whatever you want your socks to be stuffed with. And we'll see you next week for the next issue of the Idiot Quilter. So have a good one. Bye, everybody.
Yep, bye-bye.